welcome to Conversations with My Real Friends. I'm Jennifer. I'm here with my friend Jorge. Jorge's with Century 21 Real Estate Alliance, and we're going to be talking about what a homeowner can do in order to improve the sellability of their home in order to maximize their value.
Excellent. Well, there's a lot of things that an agent should encourage their clients to do.
Perfect.
To prepare the property, right? We had a scenario where our client, a buyer, was not necessarily ready to be a seller, so we did things a little bit backwards. Mm-hmm. And it was actually painful, both for the real estate agent and the consumer. So if you are thinking about selling your home, you need to give yourself at least 2 to 3 weeks after you interview your client or your real estate agent in order for you to get to the market. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I find that is actually very upsetting for me is that you take the listing today and it's on the MLS tomorrow morning. Mm-hmm. And it's not the right way of doing it. So as a homeowner that is considering being a seller, and this is something that I learned through my travels throughout the state of California and how they do things in Northern California, and in comparison to how we do things here. Yes. And a lot of it over there, a lot of the stuff that they do in the Bay Area in Northern California has to do with how hot the market is, and how do you improve the chances of the transaction actually making it through escrow. So, for example, home inspection. A pre-listing home inspection would be important. May that be the systems, your roof. In certain cities, we have a private sewer lateral inspection. Have that done. If your property has a fireplace, do the inspection of the fireplace and the chimney, and even a sweep if it's required. Right. Something that I just found out is that a home buyer can request for a chimney to be inspected, but they themselves cannot do the contracting for the sweeping of the chimney. Why? Because there's liability involved in that. Right. So the seller should be the one that does it and provide these reports as informational in nature. Yep. The other thing is, I advocate for a seller home warranty. Why? Because it's a budget protection strategy. While you're living in the property, something is going to likely go out, and it can be an expensive process. Right. And a seller home warranty, which is a couple dollars a day at the most, during your listing period, is likely going to save you, if something goes wrong, thousands of dollars. And in the worst case scenario, you're out a couple $100 during the listing period. But again, to ensure, and I want to clarify, I am not an advocate of a consumer, a buyer, just to rely on those inspections to make a non-contingent offer. I advocate that even if you receive an offer that has no contingencies or all the contingencies removed, the seller should require that they at least conduct a thorough investigation of the property. Right. Why? Because you and I know we get those claims of someone that says, well, the seller rushed me into removing contingencies, they were trying to hide something. And the reality is that sellers, they're not out to get the consumer, the buyer. Right. They just sometimes miss something, right? And the best source of information as to what's going on with the house is the neighbors. And they the
that
neighbors,
is absolutely true.
They're looking at the house, and I've had it several times showing a property, and the neighbor comes over and says, "Hey, I'm the neighbor." And you love those neighbors because they'll tell you everything that they need to know about the neighborhood, inclusive as to who's the noisy people, who has the noisy car, who has a noisy motorcycle in the neighborhood. Something that the seller, because they're accustomed to those noises or those nuances, they might forget to disclose it, right? Yep. So going back to the neighbors, they're going to say, "Hey, something happened in this house. Did you know about it?" "No, I'm just showing it for the first time." So an informed seller, minimizes surprises, surprises that may cost money. Yeah. And finding out about this specific repair or that specific, deficiency in the property during the escrow period may not necessarily be the best time to do so. Right. So the reason why I recommend that is that a seller that is looking to maximize their price, once they know everything that they should know about the property, it makes them a better disclosure. Right. And it also helps them price their home according to the condition of the property, or it gives them the opportunity to go out there and make those repairs to make their house much more desirable. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. The more disclosure in California in particular is such an issue, and the law is so favorable to the consumer that
You want to disclose anything you can think of, everything that you can find. The chances of the consumer canceling over that thing are very low.
Right.
But if it is a big deal for them, I'd rather them cancel and we go find a buyer that thing isn't a big deal for.
Right. And right now, the way that we have our market is, most buyers are interested in buying that specific house because they love that neighborhood, and there's not a lot of sellers right now, although the market is shifting. But I'm finding that the buyer's agent is calling, hey, do you have any inspections or any reports, in order for us to make an informed offer.
Exactly. So if someone has questions, wants to reach out to you, how can they reach you?
There's 3 ways. The first one is through my website, www.jorgedeleon.com, or my cell phone, which is 805-794-7102, or via email, jorge.deleon@c21realestate.com.
Great. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Conversations with My Real Friends. We'll see you on another episode.